I'm Richard Gearhart, an intellectual property attorney specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I do marketing for the firm and I'm an entrepreneur.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, everyone, the road to entrepreneurship, where we talk with entrepreneurs, innovators, and the intellectual property that helps them flourish. So tonight we have a very special guest, Tamara Ghandour, who is the founder of LaunchStreet and the creator of the IQE Innovator Assessment. So we're going to find out just how much innovators stuff that you've got.
Well, I took the assessment and it was spot on for me. But anyway, so I want to hear all about it.
I want to hear it too.
You should have taken it. It's
I
pretty cool. Anyway, and then we have Rowena Scherer, the founder of Eat to Explore. And it's not just another meal kit. It's like a whole teaching tool that includes food. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but we'll hear more from Rowena when it's her turn.
Who doesn't like food?
Well, obviously I do. And then we have Matt and Karen Riley, Heart of Oneness Holistic Expo. And they bring together a bunch of people in New Jersey every year that I really wish I could have gone to it this year, but we were gone. But next year I'm definitely going. And they have big plans for it too. So stay tuned.
But before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for IP in the news. And so what is the IP in the news?
Well, Intel not only applied for a patent on a magic wand, they actually got it granted.
Right. So it's a magic wand. And so this is a scientific magic wand. So is it really magic if it's scientific? I don't know. I guess the technology creates the illusion of magic. Anyway,
I guess that's what it is. So you can wave it around or you can talk to it and it'll tell your smart devices to do stuff for you.
Right. And not just one. You could have a whole room of smart devices and you can wave your wand around and get all sorts of special effects. And so I guess they're making Harry Potter a reality, right?
So the abstract says methods, apparatuses, systems, and storage media for creating, discovering, and or resolving spells using a wand are provided.
Right. And the patent, interestingly, has 7 inventors on it. So that's a lot of people to collaborate on a patent. And the patent itself is 45,000 words. So if you're really interested in getting a magic wand, if you're into the wizard thing, I think this technology is for you. So
it's like fun. I don't know that they've made it yet. I don't know with the whole metaverse now. I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, Elizabeth just bought a pair of Oculus goggles, right, with like the hand things. And so this weekend she was standing in our living room with the curtains wide opening with these goggles on, moving her arms around, swatting at imaginary rockets that were coming to her.
It was so much fun.
And the neighbors think we're crazy, or they think
they already
crazy.
Thought that, yeah. So it doesn't matter.
So,
no, it is so much fun. But anyway, that's beside the point. Let's get going.
Yep. Okay. So back to our guests. It's time for Richard's Roundtable. Tamara, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, as I think I said earlier, I feel like this is the updated version of the clapper from when I was a kid. So I kind of like it for that reason. But here's the thing I'd say about it with the metaverse, with Web 3.0, with wired, like everything tech can do. I love the idea of bringing an experience into your tasks and your actions. So there's something about it to me that makes like turning on my stove or I don't know, my heater or whatever it is that it does a little bit more fun and more interesting. So I'm intrigued. And I guess my question, because I'm not the IP person you are, is does that allow them to do other connections from other devices? And maybe it's not a wand, but it's another way to do it. And do they then own that communication space? I don't know the answer to that. I'll bring that back to you, but I like the experience side of it.
Yeah, it's a pretty broad patent. And so they use the term wand, but wand could be really any shape or any type of device that you wave around. So yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point that the idea behind a patent is to protect as many variations on the idea as possible. So in that 45,000 words, they discussed a lot of different ways to use this and different devices to hook it up so that it covers a lot of territory. And but that's the idea behind a patent. So they could use different wands, different shapes, different sizes, even things that don't look like wands. So, and that was very cool. Rowena, what was your thoughts about this?
My first thought was, yeah, it's like Harry Potter getting, kids especially excited about using the wand. I wonder if you can, I'm pretty sure you will be like Bluetooth or something connecting to your TV and, to your stove. You can kind of wave around and say, switch on your stove. So
exactly.
Right?
Would anybody really be fooled by that though? That's the,
I just don't know whether it would be like a kind of fun for a start, and then you're gonna lose it, and then you're like, oh, do I have to pay another $1,000 for another one?
Where did that darn wand go? It's in the couch
Exactly.
cushion.
Where does that one go? I can't start the stove. So
maybe it's a
That's a good point.
I guess if it's for kids, you have to supervise them closely because you know what kind of damage they could do to their brother or sister with one of these.
Oh, that would be pretty cool. Well, you have to clean up your room to find the wand if you want to watch TV.
Oh, imagine having the wand in the baby's hand, and then what a wand's gonna do.
So, Kenya, what are your thoughts?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not really into the whole wizardry spell thing, but it reminds me a little bit of do you remember the Nintendo Wii when it came out?
Yeah.
So, and it had the remote and you would stand on the board, and then like, I felt like it was fun for 5 minutes and then it was like not cool anymore. So this kind of reminds me of a little bit like there's a purpose for like to give you that whole experience, but then like, what's the longevity of it? Like continuing to be this, I guess, fun experience, so to speak.
Yeah, I kind of get that too, because I mean, virtual reality is still not reality. And, at some point it'll evolve, but reality is much more interesting. I mean, I'd rather, try to play a game of tennis or basketball or something than play virtual basketball. And it's just not the same experience for me. So,
although Elizabeth describes her Oculus as very fun and entertaining, that ball game that she plays. So I don't know.
I'll tell you about it when I get to my fireside segment, because or even when we're talking tomorrow, because it fits in with my profile, my IQE assessment.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yes, she has a VR profile, I guess.
No, it's not a VR profile. Anyway.
So Matt and Karen, what are your thoughts?
So I have to be honest, I absolutely love it. I always look at life as it being a beautiful reflection. So for me, the first thing that kind of caught my attention was that it's really showing people how we can use technology to focus and direct energy and intention. And we see it, every day all around the world. But, when they create something that looks like a magic wand, for me, it just is incredible. I don't mistake for any reason that all these movies like Harry Potter, are really helping the consciousness expand, and technology is just helping us to do that. So I just thought it was wonderful.
Well, that's it.
What about you, Matt?
It almost reminds me of like the Jetsons. Remember when we were a child, the cartoons and stuff. But I think it is. I think the more we're open to different ideas and different technologies that we didn't think existed 10, 20 years ago, it just expands up to my wife's point, our consciousness. It really helps to say what's possible now. Really, I mean, how far can we expand through our brain waves and through everything else? We don't know. There's no sky's the limit.
Exactly.
We're all going to be living in the Matrix soon anyway, so we're all going to get used to it now.
That's a loaded question.
I gotta say, I have an Oculus too, and when you're in it, you lose sense of the real world. Like you think you're in, and the Darth Vader one's my favorite, the lightsaber, because you're like smashing stuff with lightsabers. You think you're in Star Wars. But I have to say, if this wand could solve my biggest frustration, because I have all these different smart devices, and I have to speak to all of them a certain way, but it's not my native way of how I would say it. Right. So if this wand could solve that frustration where I get to program what I want it to say, how I want to talk to it, then I'm totally in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm down for like eating virtual food and losing weight. So if somebody can do that for me, then I will be a happy camper.
Well, I want to make one more Oculus comment related to what Matt said, because when you're in there, like if you're up high on a cliff, you really feel
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
you're going to fall into a
Yeah.
ravine if you step off, but you know you're on your living room floor. So it just shows you the limitations that our minds put on us or that
Mhm.
we put on ourselves with our minds.
Mhm.
So to Matt's point, I think anything that could help you open that up is really awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Oculus give me a headache every time I put it on. Like,
I
I
love
just
it.
like I can't do it.
Well, she did a roller coaster version, and she
Oh,
came
my
into
goodness.
the family room and said, "Oh, I got to lie down for a few minutes."
No, I like it where you get to smash things with bats. It's like, takes
I
out
did
my
the rock
frustration.
climbing
She
one.
wants
Yeah.
me to get a set so that we can have
A sword fight.
sword fights, you know.
Lightsaber fights.
You know, back in the old days, right? Couples counseling was you hit each other with pillows, right? And now
Yeah, lightsaber fights.
now it's lightsaber.
That's a good use of it.
I know. Great marital
like it.
counseling.
There you go. Maybe you see Intel one next.
Yes, I can see the motto: Intel, helping marriages around the world. So
So we
anyway,
way over.
it's time now for our guests. So Tamara Ghandour, thank you for joining us this evening. And as we mentioned before, you're founder of LaunchStreet, and you're really into innovator assessment. So could you tell us a little bit more about what you do and why you do it?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. Already so much fun, and I've learned so much already. And also, fun fact, George Jetson, I think, is born this year in the show. Like if you actually timeline him, I think this is the year he'd be born. I saw that on TikTok this morning, if that tells you anything. So thanks for having me. My name's Tamara Ghandour. I'm the president of LaunchStreet, which is an innovation consultancy, but the flagship of our company is the Innovation Quotient Edge Assessment, which is the only proprietary tool that helps people discover their everyday innovator style. And it's based on neuroscience and brain mechanics, change principles that comes together. I'll just tell you kind of very quickly where it came from and why we focus on it, and on this kind of human side of innovation. So if you looked at the landscape out there in innovation, I think a lot of people are about process and initiatives, culture, and most of the time they fail. And what I realized early on in my career was that what was more powerful than giving people ideas, showing them a process that they may or may not love, is actually showing people how they can innovate from the inside out, because we all have the ability to do it. Some of us just go to the gym of innovation a little bit more. And I'll never forget, I was speaking about innovation at a conference. I was sharing all the stories that you think are awesome, right? Like Southwest, Apple, Google, right? Like the ones that are kind of so cliche now looking back. And I got off stage and this woman came up to me and said, Tamara, that's great. Like those are all fascinating stories, but what am I supposed to do with that? And in my head, I was thinking, well, because you're an innovator, we're all actually innovators. We just do it differently. And she said, well, but I'm not like, so-and-so on the cover of Fast Company magazine with their hoodie and their cool glasses. And I'm not Steve Jobs. I'm not J.K. Rowling. I'm not any of these people. So how am I supposed to do it? And that kind of cold slap across the face is what made me realize, all right, I got to stop telling people how innovation works and like the high level of it. I got to make it tangible and real for people, because, I can give you all the fish in the world, or I can show you how you can fish for yourself. And it's been really game changing for us and for our clients, because instead of me coming in and saying, hey, I'm an innovator, look at me, let me go behind the black curtain, we work with entrepreneurs and big companies to say, hey, let's give you the tools to, instead of going up against that brick wall, how do you go around it, under it, through it, but do it repetitively, right? On an ongoing basis.
So how do you do it?
Oh, wow. We all do it a little bit differently. So I won't spend too much time on the science because I don't think we have the time, but let me tell you this. There's 9 different styles or ways that we as humans innovate. And what we all have is an everyday innovator style. And that's 2 power triggers, our wellspring of innovation, and then a dormant trigger, which is kind of what exhausts us the most. And when we focus on our power triggers, that's how we figure out how to rise above the noise, differentiate ourselves, be strong creative problem solvers. But the cool part is, Richard, is it's naturally hardwired into us. So the woman sitting next to you is naturally hardwired to be a futuristic inquisitive. So for her, the futuristic is all about forest through the trees, and the inquisitive is all about digging. So that's how she innovates. That's different than me, for example. I'm a risk taker experiential. So I'm all about getting uncomfortable and making things happen. Two
Wow.
totally different ways. But what's awesome is I don't need to try to be like Elizabeth. She's amazing, but I can't. It's where I fall short. I can be me and I can do it really well, and she can be her.
So just so our audience knows, Elizabeth took the quiz before the show. So you're not just speculating here.
Yes.
You have hard scientific data to back up your assessment. But
Right.
for what you say, though, rings true.
It is. I mean, and if you look at the descriptions of the futuristic inquisitor, like that is me, because I do like new things and I have some new ideas about this whole about my company in the metaverse, which I'll talk about later. But also, I do tend to ask a lot of questions, like the Inquisitor. Yes,
Yeah,
this is the Elizabeth Inquisition.
This is the Elizabeth. I know that so well. But she is also the one who, like, so, you get one of these emails that look like spam, and they say, "Oh, we have this new technology for, generating leads or something like that." She'll go look at it, and I'll like instantly junk mail it, right? So
Yeah.
And so she'll say, "Oh, Richard, I saw this, da 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 da," and she looks at those, and for me, it's like I don't take the time, or I really don't have the interest, right?
But I think too, though, to your point, and I don't want to hog this whole thing tomorrow, but I think getting different styles together helps, because Kenya and I brainstorm, and I think Kenya is a true creative. I'm sure she would come out like high on creativity if there's one related to that. And between the two of us, like, we can bounce things off and come up with really good ideas. And same with Richard and me.
You do.
Yeah. Here, there's two things I'd say about that. One is, Kenya, I'm sure you are incredible and more practiced. So everybody can innovate. What I really find is that people who say, I'm not the creative one, I get stuck a lot. I just don't know how to differentiate myself. I don't know how to problem solve. That's not me, right? That's like cool Kenya down the hall. What I really find is what they're saying is what's true is that they're just not intentional and they're not active about it. So the mind, it's not technically a muscle, but it acts like one, right? You got to strengthen it. You got to work it. So everybody's an innovator. That's why I love the assessment, because the tens of thousands of people across the globe with all the different styles, it's proof, right? Oh, I just got to practice this muscle, and we've made it easy for people. And the other thing, to your point, is different styles it's like storming a castle. You would never just go with one angle on something. So if you want to innovate or move your business forward, right, you want different perspectives looking at things. So I think there's an old phrase that ideas from birds of a feather tend to die, but ideas from diversity of thinking tend to thrive. And it's totally true, but it's so fun to see, because Elizabeth, to your thing about asking questions, like, I always know inquisitives, because at that 11:30 meeting where I'm getting really hungry because I'm on meal 3 because I eat a lot, and you're still asking questions, and I'm like, oh, it's time to go to lunch. But you're innovating, right? You're digging, you're challenging assumptions, you're pulling back the layers, and I'm only thinking about lunch. But if I know that about you, I will value that and I will leverage it versus being annoyed by it.
Well, so Kenya, you must have some thoughts on this.
I do. I was wondering, does your innovation style, or like, does it change or does it adapt?
That's a great question. Here's what we find, because you have 2 power triggers and 1 dormant trigger. The core remains the same, but over time, we're dynamic, we're humans, right? So we evolve and grow. Our brains rewire as we practice innovation. So some small things tend to change. And what we find is that maybe 1 power trigger has shifted in that. So maybe, in 3 years, if we took it again for Elizabeth, instead of a futuristic inquisitive, maybe she's more of a collaborative inquisitive moving forward.
So Tamara, we have to take a break here and let our brains rewire, but we'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. Hi, everybody. We're back here with Tamara Ghandour, and we were talking about innovation, and she was just responding to a question from Kenya about whether innovation styles can change. Maybe you'd like to continue with that.
Yeah, we're dynamic, we're human. So if, it's the same with any muscle in our body. If we go and we strengthen and we work on it, it's going to change and grow a little bit. The core inside of you remains the same, but some of that output might change. Here's the cool thing about it. So, we all know no 2 thumbprints are alike. That's why police look for thumbprints at a crime scene. Well, no 2 brains are alike too. So our experiences, our perspectives, all of that kind of come together to create what's unique about us. And I'm just going to loop it back for a second to kind of entrepreneurship and business. That's what differentiates you in the marketplace too. is how you innovate is what makes you unique, and that's what makes you valuable. And I think sometimes we miss that. Sometimes we add to the noise, but how we innovate is actually our greatest competitive advantage and the way that we can get out there.
So I have a question. Can I have a
No,
No.
sorry.
So Tamara, you know, we think of like great innovators, and we
Yeah.
think of, you know, like people like Bill Gates or
Yeah.
Steve Jobs. They seem to have such high levels of innovation. How do you think, and you know, other people have less innovation, but how does that happen? What is it, just something special about their DNA, or is it something special about the teams they build? How do you cover that?
So there's a combination of things going on there. One is environment and timing. And like, if you look at Bill Gates and where he was and the first computer lab that was opening up in the college down the street from him, like there are things that propelled him into the world that he ended up going into and the changes that he made for all of us. So that's one. There's a big part of environment that plays into that, which is really goes into practice. But here's the other thing I'd say, Richard, is we often mistake creativity or innovation and genius. And as someone once said to me, actually a neuroscientist that I interviewed, he said, genius is rare, but creativity is common. So Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, like those, you know, Mark Zuckerberg, like they're innovators, but they're also at the genius level, Elon Musk. And that's different. I think what's important to understand is that all of us are everyday innovators. That's why we titled it Everyday Innovator and not like, you know, crazy disruptive innovator, because oftentimes the best innovation comes from the most unlikely places and people, and it's the best, right? It makes the most impact. Sometimes it's huge, sometimes it's small, but people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk are also genius, and studies have shown actually that there's a whole timing and environment that plays into it.
Sure. Okay. That sounds really great. So, so where can our listeners find you, Tamara?
So they can go to LaunchStreet.com. I always feel like I have to say that because I'm not saying go to, it's actually in the URL. So GOTO LaunchStreet. I know, so super confusing.
Go to.
Yeah, go to LaunchStreet.com. So that's the best place. The assessment is there. And I just want to say one thing about it, because go with me for a second, because this does kind of loop back. Groceries are at the highest they've ever been. Bacon is at the highest it's ever been. Gas prices, it took me $34 more to fill up my gas tank. My Subaru Outback, it's not even a big car, than it did 6 months ago. Housing prices are out of control. So we made the decision that while all other prices were going up, that we were going to drop the price of the IQE from $47 to $12.99, because we wanted to make it accessible to everyone. We know that creative problem solving is what gets us through uncertainty. And we didn't want a tool that people felt like price was going to keep them from actually getting it. So we feel we just made this change. We're really proud of it. And hopefully it helps us differentiate in the market, but more than that, hopefully it helps us give people the tools they need to push forward.
That is great. And I applaud you, because if we can innovate, everybody can innovate and help solve some of these problems, then we'll all be better off. So
exactly.
So that's amazing. And we will be back right after this commercial break. Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart here. We just had an amazing discussion with Tamara Ghandour, and it really it was inspiring. I mean, I love innovating. I love the feel that I get when I'm innovating.
But you don't know your innovation type because you did not take her quiz.
I know, but I'm going to. I'm going to right after this show. So in the meantime, it's time for Power Move. Kenya, who is on our Power Move?
Sorry for the delay there. For Power Move today, we're going to be talking about Angela Holmesy. She's the founder of Ignite Power. So she is an investor, but she's also a techie, right? She's a tech entrepreneur. And Ignite Power is all about creating a systematic impact on sectors that are essential and vital. So she invests in everything from power, energy, water, irrigation, financial services, and internet connectivity. And they do this in pretty much like all across the globe, but specifically Africa, Israel, the Middle East. And they are creating global sustainability through the power of her platform. So I wanted to highlight her today because I feel like there's power in doing good.
Well, and there's power in power, because a lot of the stuff that she's doing is in the, utility, power, irrigation, really the fundamentals of keeping our planet and our population running in the
Right.
right
It's
ways.
nice to know that there's private companies investing in infrastructure around the world. I mean, that's so important. So that is a power move.
That is a power move in more ways than one, I suppose. Anyway, what
So-
is on for Fireside today?
Well, okay. So I got this idea for Fireside from talking with Kenya, talking about the Oculus 2 and the all the stuff with VR. So Fireside is an online video directory of small businesses. And Kenya has a coaching business, and so I've been doing fitness things, and she's like, how can I get my coaching business on there? And Richard, to tie this together, you'll see where it's going. Richard went on YouTube. Richard went on to YouTube in VR on the Oculus. You download an app. And so my interviews are on a website, but also on YouTube. So I'm thinking that there may be a way with Fireside, not now, but in 5 years, to move Fireside into the metaverse, because this whole Oculus VR thing, you have to have a Facebook account, right, for this. So this is going to be part of the metaverse, or I don't know exactly what the metaverse is going to look like, but I'm thinking, in this, my futuristic piece, this is why I'm saying tomorrow's thing was like so spot on. Like, I want my Fireside directory of small businesses to be in the metaverse when that happens.
That sounds pretty cool. I mean, instead of just seeing a headshot, you could go into that person's office, for example, and sit down and have a face-to-face interview. And that would make the experience very real. Even though we were poking fun at the Oculus graphics, some of those were movies that were taped, and so they showed real footage in 3 dimensions.
And it's scary. You were standing on the edge of a cliff.
I was standing on the edge of a cliff watching the solo climber without ropes go up this
but
up the straight rock wall.
But what's even funnier about the app that I was doing called Supernatural is that it helps you pick out an avatar, and you put in all this information about yourself, but somehow, okay, so this is a little scary, guys. Somehow it knew I was blonde. It kind of knew what shape I was. It kind of knew what I would look like. And so it showed me these avatars, and I could change different things. Like I changed eye color to green from blue, but like I could have made myself super skinny or super fat or somewhere in between, it was just
doesn't
like,
know your shoe size. That's what
I think it does. So you go in.
So that information is being sent to Zappos right now.
Yeah, but that was in the Supernatural app. So there is just so much going to be done with this. So it is like a futuristic thing, but I think it's going to take 5 years at least for enough people to adapt, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is wonderful and freaky at the same time. So
fun and freaky. Okay, so let's move on to our next presenter, Rowena Scherer with Eat to Explore, EAT, the number 2, Explore. And this is a whole system. So please, Rowena, introduce yourself and tell us about it.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth and Richard, for having me. Well, I am Rowena Scherer, founder of Eat, the number 2, Explore. Just like the name, we are an experiential cooking kit designed to bring cultural education alive for the whole family and children through the exploration of world cuisine. So it's a food and cultural exploration box. We actually provide the hard to find spices and sauces. They're all shelf stable. And then we give you the educational material and the cooking instructions to make different world cuisine. We have 22 different countries. And it's actually a great way to teach your family, especially young kids, to learn about the connectivity of different culture, the history of why certain spices come to the country, and learn how to make a meal. It's a life skill, and also encourage kids to try different food. It's a little bit different than the metaverse and all the electronic out there. It's kind of like bring you back to basic, which is what we want to do.
Yeah, well,
a little family time, a little get your hand off your electronics, and dicing and chopping, and it's really coming together. And And I kind of started this because of my own family, because we are
Uh-huh.
all like on your phone and everyone was so busy, and I was working full time on Wall Street. And it's just, I saw my kid and I realized that I kind of fail as a parent because I never let them figure it out, like to make a
Mhm.
meal. I grew up in Malaysia, and my fondest memory was every Sunday. My mom was very religious. It's like, you gotta make your meal, let's all cook together. You dice, you chop, and then we sit down and we eat. And I feel like those was kind of like how I grew up, and I sort of lost that with my own
Yeah.
kids. And we all really are too busy. And as a parent, I don't want them to get hurt. And frankly, they need to get hurt to learn, right? But I sort of trying to protect them, but that actually was not the right way to do it. So I started this for my kids, and then I realized that a lot of family needs this. And so we make it fun, easy. We do all the research. You can learn geography, history, music, language, everything with our box.
This
So
is
Well,
awesome.
you know, I just want to be totally honest here. The way I grew up, we had dinner every night as a family, my mom, my dad, and myself. And I hated it. I mean, I just I hated
Well,
and they talked
you were
about
the only
such
kid, so you were
stuff that I just couldn't care less about. But looking back on it now, I mean, at the time I hated it, but looking back at it now, and as we're talking about this, I really do think that even there was a part of me that was being rebellious. There's another part of me that appreciated the time. And I really learned a lot about my parents, and I learned about the values of our family. And sometimes I wonder how I turned out the way I did, but it's probably because
I'm not going there.
but it's probably because we sat around and we did talk.
But what I love about this is I love cuisine from other countries. I love trying it. And I would cook it myself because obviously you're not going to get like the real stuff at a restaurant here or whatever. If you can even find the right restaurant. Like I don't know where there's Malaysian food around us. But finding all the ingredients is like a nightmare unless you
Yeah.
know exactly where to go. So I think this is very cool and would be very fun to
thank
try.
you.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
it's amazing too. There's no like special tools or cooking
So
utensils
we
required.
add a no, so every box has a unique cooking tool, so there is a fun cooking tool, but you just really need a knife. And then we give you a shopping list, so you buy your basic ingredients, and we have vegan option and gluten-free options. So because you buy your own fresh ingredients, we provide the hard to find spices and sauces, and all our spices are McCormick sourced with the supplier, and so they're high quality. And so that's the hard part, right? We give you grains like teff flour for your Ethiopian injera bread, and just make it easy without, and only once, it's only 3 recipes. So you don't have to cook every day. Like, the idea is you pick a day, a week, and then just cook 3 times a month with your family. So you can subscribe and get a new country every month. Or you can just buy a single box. Or you can buy a continent. So the schools use us for their continent studies, and they do Europe. So they, homeschoolers especially, they just buy 5 boxes of our European continent, and then they learn it through there and do it as a program.
That sounds great. Kenya, we want to get your input on this project.
I love this. I think this is so innovative. And for someone who does not like to cook, I'm actually excited because I think if I had something to look forward to where it was, just connected to a country or someplace I've never visited before, like it just makes it a little bit more exciting. You actually answered my question because I was going to ask you about the subscription base and how that works. But I guess if I had to ask another question, like kind of where do you see the company evolving to in the next few years?
So we are actually starting to, I'm approaching grocery stores. So we want to partner with them where they can, families can buy a box, kind of QR code it and get the shopping list and buy on the spot the groceries that's needed. So every recipe is for 4 adult servings. And it's very balanced. It has rice and, or grains and vegetables and protein. And so I think partnering with grocery stores makes a lot of sense. We're also talking to travel agents, and actually our new boxes, we're talking to travel bureaus of different countries. because how fun it is to learn about the country and cook it before you visit. That makes your trip so much more enriching. So we're trying to look at that as well and partner with them.
That is, such a great idea. Lots of times when we travel, well, last time was to Aruba, and they had Kentucky Fried Chicken and Wendy's and Burger King, within walking distance. And then we stayed at an all-inclusive, right? And they had all this kind of prepared food that was
very Americanized.
Very Americanized. And I don't think
and not in a good way either.
Yeah. And I don't think we ever got a chance to go out and eat in an authentic Aruban restaurant. But if we had tried it beforehand, we probably would have said, hey, this is great. Let's go find some place that, it tastes like this. Right. So
Tamara, what is your comment or question?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to go back to the past and I'm going to go forward. So first of all, does anybody remember the Mutual of Omaha cards that you used to collect, and it would have like a picture of a cheetah on the front and then information about the cheetah on the back? And you were like, in my neighborhood, I was cool because I had the whole pack of the safari.
Oh, really?
So yeah, that's dorky. I know.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't collect those cards.
I think I just admitted that publicly, didn't I? But I love and maybe it already does this. I love the idea of it, the recipes being collectibles that I could thumb through later and show to other people, because then it's got badge value, and I share it, right? You come over, great. You come over and I'm like, woo.
Yeah, we do actually. I didn't even say that, but we have passports, so you can actually collect stickers and passport and flag pins. Yeah. So one thing I really want families to learn is about the flag. Like, flag has history, a flag has significance of each country. So people collect flags and put it on your apron or put it on your bag.
Love it. And going to the future, I would say I'm going to go in the metaverse, because I love my Oculus. I love it. I love it. I do a lot of different things on there. I would like to then go on to your app or whatever it's called in the metaverse. And I would like to talk to other people who've also tried the Ethiopian food and talk about like the flavors and the food and create community, because food is so much about community too, isn't it? So I don't know, I love that idea about it too, but I love it. And I love the idea of making international food comfortable for people who maybe are afraid to try. And I think Hilton Hotels should call you, because they should give it as a takeaway when someone visits their hotel in France. I'm going to take away those recipes with me. I think they'd be a great partner.
See, I think Tamara is innovating right now, by the way.
I think for the Oculus app, Tamara, let's you and I meet in Ethiopia. Okay, so we'll find Ethiopia there.
We'll eat together
at a table in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I love it.
There you go.
I'm on board.
That's actually a great point. If I could just expand a little bit. So have you ever thought of potentially doing like a virtual reality cooking class in like some of the countries that you're highlighting for your?
We have done. I've actually done virtual cooking class, but not like in the metaverse. But I do a lot of instructions with like corporate. In fact, we did one with Intel. Where the Intel employees did our Kenya box, actually, talking about Kenya. So yeah, we've done a bit of that, but it's just hard, and it takes up a lot of time when I have to do cooking classes. But one thing I wanted to say though, kids, it's actually great for children between 5 to 13 do like to spend time with parents. So we really want to hone in on that and said, that's when you have their time, treasure it, make memories, and go from there. And also what we have done now is, for instance, AAPI, the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month coming up. We have an Explore Asia box, and then we're doing a Jamaica one for the Caribbean Heritage Month as well. So, which is kind of fun. And we work now with local chefs.
I will say, Rowena, I have a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old boys. And if I can get my 17-year-old to cook with me in the kitchen, we have the best conversations. So it's a reason for them to want to hang out with me.
There you go.
Well, we're going to do this with our adult children.
Well, we're going to do this together too.
Yes, we'll do this together. So
awesome. I'll send you some boxes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, Ethiopia. That's number one.
Oh, awesome. Okay, Ethiopia.
We need to move on, unfortunately. But what is your website again where people can find you?
Yes, it's eat2explore.com. So EAT, number 2, EXPLORE.com.
And I urge everybody to try it. So now we are on to our next presenters. husband and wife team, Matt and Karen Riley, with Heart of Oneness Holistic Expo. And I really want to hear all about this. So please tell us.
Aw. Well, first, thank you for having us. We are absolutely thrilled to speak with you and your listeners. So we are Karen and Matt Riley, and we are the founders, and we host the Heart of Oneness Holistic Expo. It's a 2.5-day event that for right now takes place in Edison, New Jersey. And we offer something so much more than an expo. I think one of the first things we always like to say is that it's a community. And we have over 150 holistic practitioners that come for the weekend and help others to really find what they're passionate about in life, and also kind of teach them tools and practices that help them to know themselves better as individuals. This last show, we had 5.5 thousand people through the door, and it was absolutely incredible. There's something so special about seeing people come together, especially after COVID, within a space of feeling like they were ready to connect again.
So what kind of vendors do you get here?
So we get all different types of exhibitors, from Reiki masters to people who do mediumship, psychic reading. We have natural products. We have
crystal jewelry.
hypnotherapy.
We really have a diverse group of people, and we really keep it that way. We try and work through it so there's an offering for everybody. So it's not just readers or mediums. It's really a lot of different aspects of the holistic community that come together.
You know, it really triggers a memory for me. Before COVID, we used to go, or I had been to different kinds of shows. I like to do woodworking, and I go to a woodworking show, also several professional organizations. And there's something that's really reviving about being with other people who have the same interests that you have. And, you know, with a lot of them, I feel like I could just talk with them for hours about our interests. And it's very easy to strike up new relationships. And I think with all the video and the Zoom and everything, we've sort of lost that experience. And I would always go to these conferences just feeling really juiced after I got out of them. So I think it's wonderful that you're doing this. And it sounds like it's something that the attendees must love, and the vendors must love it too, right? So
They do. Yeah, absolutely.
It's an exciting weekend. It's we have 35 workshops. In March of 2023, we'll probably have about 40. Most of them are free with the attendance. So to your point, people come and spend a day. It's not coming for an hour and leaving. You know, we're open on Saturdays from 10 to 7 and Sundays 10 to 5. Most people get there at 10:30 in the morning. They're staying almost the end of the day.
Right.
Because they're meeting with all the different exhibitors, like you said, but they're also attending all these free workshops.
So what are your most popular services, items, workshops?
Wow, I would definitely say crystals, right? For one, because, you know, it's a tangible object in the line of work that this is. It's about energy. And I feel like, again, technology is really helping us to understand ourselves as more than just skin and bone and tissue. We're energy. So crystals by far, definitely that. Reiki would certainly be another.
The workshops, it seemed like the sound healing was very popular. We had a mediumship going about the sound healing, whether it's gongs or tuning forks, all these different sound energy therapies really seem to resonate a lot with people. But it was really nice because the way we structured the workshops is there was something for everybody. So people could attend all these different workshops and really get something that resonates with them, and then go and interact with the exhibitors on the floor to get some additional information.
So what kind of people came? Was it like cat owners like me?
So if I tell you, just like what Matt said, there's something there for everyone. And I think one of the things that we want to say is to just keep curious about life. Be curious about life, be curious about yourself, be curious about your own expansion and awareness in life. There's something there for everyone. I mean, we witnessed, at the show, people were coming in the door and they're just met with like this awe. And then as they were leaving, they were like, our lives have totally changed. And
Wow.
it could be as simple as, again, they just discovered something about themselves that they didn't know before. We're so busy in our lives with work and demands and children that we forget to really tap into ourselves and understand ourselves and what really drives us and why we do the things that we do.
And having some mystery is so wonderful, because I think mystery and hope are related. And if there is some mystery, then I think that's very helpful for the soul. So Kenya, what are your thoughts?
Well, I kind of had the opposite question that Elizabeth had, right? Because I do believe that we have this innate void that God puts in us to like want to know things, right? But I was just going to ask you, why do you think people come?
So I believe people come because they do feel that void, right? So for me, in our name, we're about oneness. So it's not so much about being separate from God. It's about recognizing that we are part of God. We are an aspect, a spark, if you will, of energy, of light, however you want to say it, of the divine. There is no separation in terms of us, but through virtue of our human experience, we think that there is. So this offers a platform for people to gently, at their own space and when they're ready, to move into that expansion of themselves. So I feel that's why people come.
I just was curious too. Do you think like there is kind of a bad side to knowing too much? Because I feel like there's walking by faith, and then there's like tapping into things that might not necessarily be good for you.
So here's the thing, from a human perspective for me, when we don't trust, it's typically because we don't trust ourselves to make the right decisions. So in that space, in and of itself, we open up that door to feeling like something may not be right for us. So I feel our show really offers practical tools for people to begin to self-trust, self-regulate, and then that just expands everything else. So in the beginning, I'll be really honest, I was born very religious in my upbringing. So when I discovered this world and energy, it took me a while to really kind of release, if you will, some of those belief structures. And I realized that it was me that was holding this thought in place that something could potentially harm me. But I had to bring that back into my own lack of self-trust, if you will. And once I did that, it was like everything just opened and God actually became so much closer and more a part of me. But that was part of my journey.
Wow.
So you understand the spiritual significance of
100%.
what's
100%.
you're
And
doing.
I really feel the beauty in the show too is about recognizing the spirituality of it, but also seeing how technology is bridging all of that together.
Right.
It
So-
really is.
Yeah.
So
Tomorrow.
yeah.
Look, I'm a free spirit wrapped up in a very anxious type A personality. So
Here's
here's what I can say. About 4 months ago, I started this practice of doing 5 things that I know for me make me feel connected to source energy. And breathe me with life and confidence. And I don't understand how they work. They're tiny. I do them 5 every day, but they work.
Yeah.
And the minute I started doing those things, some I get, some I don't quite understand. Everything else in my life and in my business, frankly, opened up financially, personally, and relationships. Like it was crazy to me how it all kind of comes together in this one area. So I love the field of it. And I guess my question back is, what do you tell people to make them see how you are more valuable and different maybe than all the other quote unquote wellness people out there? Because I do think the challenge in this area is it's super cluttered.
I think for us, it's like I said, we come from an open heart space. So really we're trying to give everybody an experience. To your point, there's all different types of expos and shows, but we really want to give people an experience. And when they come through the door, they're very welcome and inviting.
Right.
So, we're on the floor the whole time, we're greeting people and meeting people, but it's really about who we draw into the show, both from the attendees and the exhibitors, and really, again, coming back to getting that experience and coming in and enjoying themselves and being able to spend the whole day and feel like they're getting a benefit when they walk out the door.
Right. One of the things that's very important to us is knowing that it doesn't really matter where you are and your belief structure, your mindset, there's a place for you here. We want everyone to know that they're welcome and they can move about in their own space and just feel like they're loved and appreciated. Over the years, Matt and I have, we know many of the participants too, very closely and intimately. And I think it's what makes us different, because we're not just an expo show and we're not behind this curtain that no one knows who we are. We're very much out in the open. And we love that transparency because we feel like that's what we stand for. We walk the walk, we live the life, and we want others to do the same because it's how we change and innovate, Tamara, our lives and the way that we see our future. And, we're just firm believers that it all starts with your belief, your intention, and your connection to source and how you bridge that all together.
Well, I have to agree. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I see that your next one is going to be March 3rd to 5th, 2023. That is on my calendar already at the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center. And I guess you probably have people come from around the country to this, right?
We do, yes.
We do.
Maybe even around the world, and depending on how your marketing is. And people can find it. What is your website?
Our website is Heart of Oneness, holisticexpo.com.
Great. Well, I look forward to meeting you in person next
too.
year then.
Same here.
That's great. We have to take a break now. This is Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. Really an amazing show tonight. I think after our last segment with Matt and Karen, I'm feeling, very calm and centered. And so
I know, I feel like
I'm waiting for the inspiration and the innovation to start bubbling out of me, and looking forward to lunch from a worldwide source of cuisine.
Right. So let me clarify a little. I'm going to give a little recap of the show. So first we had Tamara Ghandour, our guest, who is the creator of LaunchStreet and the IQE Innovator Assessment, which I took and found to be spot on and phenomenal. If you want to know how you innovate, go to her website, which is www.gotolaunchstreet.com.
And the really great thing about this is that everybody can be an innovator. And
everybody is an innovator.
Everybody is an innovator. And if you don't feel like you're innovating as much as you would like, there's ways to improve that. So I think that's a very positive and hopeful message.
Right. And then we had Rowena Scherer with Eat to Explore, and her website is explore.com. And this was very cool. So she gives you kits to make meals from other cultures and cuisines, and she gives you all sorts of learning materials with it, so your whole family can get involved. It's something really fun to do with your kids.
I think it could just be fun to do with anybody. I mean,
even me.
Well, especially you.
So,
and we usually have, like, on the weekends, we usually have the same boring stuff every weekend.
I know. Salmon,
steak and
swordfish.
fish, steak and fish. And this would add some spice to our weekend.
Literally.
Cooking. Yeah.
And then we had Matt and Karen Riley with Heart of Oneness Holistic Expo. So they hold an expo in New Jersey once a year for holistic types of things like crystals and Reiki healers, and they sell things, and it's just a really fun thing to go to. The next one is March 3rd through 5th, 2023, and their website is Heart of Oneness holisticexpo.com.
And so you have some crystals, right? Or you bought
I have
some
crystals. I have all sorts of stuff.
So what are the crystals supposed to do?
Well, I went through a crystal thing with somebody, and you lay them out and you put your intention in them, and it's supposed to help you, I think, center yourself on what your intention is more than anything, right?
Has that helped with your intention?
It's somewhat. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to judge. I didn't, you get off on sidetracked on things, and so you don't really know.
Oh, okay.
If I could just spend a whole day here, stay focused, then maybe I would be able to tell the outcome better. Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that sounds like an interesting project. Maybe we could set up some crystals around the kitchen while we cook the international food and talk about passage to profit and ways we can innovate.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Anyway,
I'm trying. He's reaching.
I'm right. Well, we've got another 3 minutes to kill, so and you can strike that, Noah.
Yeah, please, Noah.
Anyway, but before we go, I'd like to turn things back over to Tamara. And do you have any final words or thoughts for our audience?
Richard, I'm going to piggyback on what you said, which I think is so great, which is it feels good to innovate. Like it actually taps the dopamine, the feel-good chemicals in your brain. So there's a reason why it feels good when we do that. But I think more than that, what you just said about it gives you hope and inspiration. We're in a crazy time, and this next normal is not yet figured out. And yet there's incredible opportunity in that too. There's an opportunity to innovate, opportunity to carve your own path up that mountain. And I think, giving everybody that tool to do it on their own is personally very gratifying. And I hope people take advantage of it. And I have learned so much from these other entrepreneurs on here. So thank you to all of you.
Well, that's really a great comment. And I have to say that for me, brainstorming is the favorite part of the project, right? And just letting the creativity gush.
It feels great.
Most of it is crap, but every once in a while I get a few good nuggets out of there.
I honestly have to say, Richard, people say, how can you and Richard possibly work together and stay married? And
not necessarily in that order, by the way.
That's a different show.
That's a different show. But I will say one thing that happens is, and we do have different innovator styles, as if he had taken your assessment, he would see. But I think what happens is on the weekends and on car rides, especially on car rides, we just start innovating together and we feed off each other, and to the point where we don't know who came up with the idea.
Right.
I
think I come up with all the ideas, but
of course you think that. But I do think innovation is important for people's lives because it gives you excitement and it gives you kind of a reason to exist, right?
And something to look forward to.
Normal ones.
Something to look forward to. It's like, won't it be cool when this happens? And so anyway.
Well, and our big goal is to unleash 1 million everyday innovators into the world, because we could solve so many problems and move so many things forward if we kind of were all that rising tide together. And it's energizing, it's exciting. And you know what? I made the mistake of turning on the news this morning, and there's so much out of our control, but our ability to innovate and find paths around things is absolutely in our control.
Right.
Well said. Kenya, any parting thoughts for our audience?
Well, I don't have anything really clever today to say, but I would say that I think the thematic of the show was definitely the power of innovation through being self-aware, right? Like, I feel like the more you know about yourself, the more you know where your canisters are loaded, you can leverage those things to really create and do really nice things. So that's it.
Very well said, as usual. So, well, it looks like our time has come to an end, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And please join us next week for another Passage to Profit episode on the station with more amazing guests and more amazing presenters. But before we go, I'd like to thank Kenya Gipson, our media maven, Noah Fleischman, our producer, and Alicia Morrissey, our program coordinator, along with Mark Wilson, our syndication guy. You're listening to Passage to Profit, and don't forget to like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And while the information here is believed to be correct, always discuss your particular legal situation with an experienced professional. This is Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart signing off.